I never expected to discover my brother's true nature through a desperate late-night text message. Yet there it was on my screen, Reed's name flashing with a request that made my blood run cold. My name is Elaine Sawyer, and until that moment, I thought I had established clear boundaries in my life. I'm the founder and CEO of a successful tech startup, built from the ground up with my grandfather's inheritance and my own sweat and tears. But family has a way of crashing through your carefully constructed walls when you least expect it. Elaine, I need $300,000 by tomorrow, Reed's message read, its demanding tone piercing through my chest like an icy blade. It's for an investment opportunity that can't wait. This could finally turn everything around for me. My fingers gripped my phone tighter, knuckles turning white. My grandfather Marcus had passed away just 8 years ago, leaving me a substantial inheritance that became the foundation of my company. Now my younger brother was asking for almost half of my liquid assets in a text message. This is time-sensitive, another message pinged through. Reed's tone took on that smooth, persuasive quality I used to find endearing in childhood. The return will be massive. You won't even miss the money with how well your company is doing. My stomach clenched as I scrolled through his detailed message, outlining vague promises of returns and opportunity. I'd received similar requests before, but never this brazen, never this large. Mom and Dad agree this makes sense, he continued, words stabbing like tiny daggers. They think it's only fair you help family. After all, we're blood. A wave of anger washed over me. 10 years of building my company from scratch, countless sleepless nights and sacrificed relationships, and my family still saw my success as their personal ATM. The bitter taste of resentment filled my mouth. I know you're probably overthinking this like you do everything, Reed's final message read. But this is my chance to finally stand on my own. Don't you want that for your little brother? I closed the message and opened my banking app, reviewing my accounts with trembling fingers. My financial advisor had warned me about setting boundaries with Reed after his last emergency loan. I hadn't listened then. The consequences had been predictable. My phone buzzed again, a text from Octavia, my best friend and accountant, still working on those projections. You're up late. Everything okay? I stared at her message, my finger hovering over the keyboard. How could I explain? That my brother was trying to drain my accounts again? That my parents were enabling this behavior? That the family I kept at arm's length for good reason was proving exactly why I needed that distance? Instead, I typed, need your eyes on something. Breakfast tomorrow. Important. Her response came immediately, your office, 7 a.m. Is it Reed again? I looked around my minimalist apartment at the few carefully chosen photos, me at my company launch, receiving the Women in Tech Award, the last picture taken with grandfather Marcus before he died. No family photos adorned my walls. That absence suddenly felt like a deliberate choice rather than an oversight. Yes, I wrote back. And this time, I'm done being the family bank. 3 days after discovering Reed's desperate ploy, I sat across from Octavia in my minimalist office, watching her analyze the spreadsheets I'd prepared. The sleek space hummed with early morning productivity, but all I could hear was Reed's demanding message, attempting to drain my hard-earned assets. That entitled parasite, Octavia finally said, her accountant instincts flaring. Have you checked your investment accounts? Your recent transfers? I nodded, sliding my tablet toward her. Already secured everything, but I stopped as my screen lit up with a message from my mother, family meeting tonight at 7. We need to discuss Reed's business proposal and your responsibility to help. Don't be difficult. They're escalating faster than expected, I said, showing Octavia the message. She frowned, studying the text carefully. You know what's concerning? Reed's consulting firm specializes in leveraged buyouts. I looked into their recent clients. What are you suggesting? I'm saying this might be more calculated than just Reed's usual cash grab. Have you noticed any unusual activity with your company shares lately? Before I could answer, my office door swung open. My mother Bronwyn's voice filled the room, making my blood freeze. Elaine. Working early as usual. Octavia's eyebrows shot up, but I maintained my composure as Bronwyn strode toward us, designer handbag swinging. Her perfectly styled hair gleamed under the office lights, likely paid for with money I'd given Reed, I realized bitterly. Just reviewing quarterly projections with Octavia, I said, voice deliberately neutral. What brings you here, Mom? Oh, I was in the neighborhood. And you're looking so exhausted, Bronwyn commented, eyeing my appearance critically. Reed told me you might join us tonight. We have such promising opportunities to discuss. I felt Octavia shift slightly beside me, a silent signal to remain steady. Actually, I have an investor call tonight, I lied without hesitation. Can't reschedule. But surely your brother's future takes priority. This is about family legacy. Bronwyn's smile remained fixed, but her eyes turned cold. My company is exactly why I can't miss the call, I replied, standing to signal the end of our conversation. Another time, perhaps. As we watched Bronwyn leave, Octavia touched my arm. That wasn't coincidence. She came to pressure you in person. She probably tracked my location through my family sharing app, I realized. I need to disable that immediately. You need to do more than that, Octavia said firmly. You need to lock down your assets before they can make any moves. My phone buzzed again, a message from Reed. Mom said she saw you at the office. Everything okay? You seem distant lately. I stared at the text, remembering how Reed and I used to be close before money came between us. Now every word felt manipulative, part of some elaborate scheme. I can't maintain this charade, I confessed to Octavia. Every time they contact me about family responsibility, I feel rage building. Then don't pretend, Octavia said. Use it. Let them think you're considering their proposal. It'll buy us time to uncover what they're really planning. As if perfectly timed, my phone displayed an incoming email from my financial advisor. Elaine, review this immediately. I opened it with Octavia watching. My advisor's message was crisp with professional concern, unusual inquiry about your trust fund accessibility. Someone claiming family authorization attempted to request information. Blocked as per your instructions. Everything suddenly connected. This wasn't just about a cash infusion, this was about accessing my grandfather's entire trust, and my brother had been plotting against me all along. I need to go, I told Octavia. I'm calling an emergency meeting with my legal team. This ends now. What are you planning? Octavia asked. I thought about Reed's entitled demands, my mother's manipulative tactics, and my grandfather's belief in my potential. I'm going to protect what I've built, I said. And make them regret ever thinking I was their personal ATM. After a week of digital forensics, I finally found what I was looking for in Reed's cloud storage. My heart pounded as I stared at the documents, fabricated business plans, manipulated financial projections, and desperate loan applications, all using my company's financial statements as collateral. The signature line at the bottom of each page felt like a knife twisting in my gut, clearly designed for me to sign over access to my trust fund. The video call chimed on my laptop. I accepted it to find Reed's face filling my screen, his expression suspiciously neutral. Going through my files? He asked, voice unnervingly calm. I held up my tablet displaying his documents. How long have you been planning this scam? Before or after grandfather's trust conditions were revealed? It's not what you think, Elaine, he sighed, his image shifting as he adjusted his position. This business opportunity would benefit us both. You're too stubborn to see it. Too stubborn? My voice trembled with fury. I built my company from nothing. I helped you repeatedly. And I'm trying to create my own success. Reed's voice took on that persuasive tone that once worked on me. I watched him lean closer to his camera. The market's booming right now. Without this investment, I'll miss the opportunity of a lifetime. Don't, I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. Don't pretend this is about anything except your gambling debts. His face hardened. You're being paranoid. Your success has made you suspicious of everyone. Don't you dare. The rage I'd been containing erupted. I found the loan applications, Reed. Already filled out with my financial information. Were you going to forge my signature too? Something flickered in his eyes, not shame, but irritation at being discovered. Grandfather's death anniversary changed everything. We needed to act before the trust renewed its terms. We? I laughed bitterly. You mean you and our parents? How much were they expecting from this scheme? The doorbell interrupted us. Elaine? Are you home? Mother's voice came through my apartment's intercom. We brought lunch to discuss family matters. Reed leaned forward. Don't overreact. They're just trying to help. Think about your future. I glared into the camera. That's exactly what I'm thinking about. There you are. A second video window popped up showing my mother and father. Their smiles faltered when they saw my expression. Oh, are you reviewing Reed's business proposal? Wonderful. We can discuss everything over lunch. Actually, I said, straightening my shoulders, I just got off the phone with my financial advisor. A bluff, but worth it to see Reed's face pale. Interesting how the trust fund's security protocols flagged multiple unauthorized access attempts. Father stepped closer to their camera, all practice charm. Elaine, family financial planning can be complicated. Like planning to drain my accounts while claiming it's for my benefit? I watched their confident expressions waver. Or using family loyalty as cover while you enable Reed's financial irresponsibility? You're making a mistake, Reed said quietly. This opportunity won't wait for your trust issues. I thought about my grandfather working tirelessly, teaching me that independence mattered more than quick money, about my advisor's warnings and Octavia's analysis. You're right about one thing, I said, clicking a button on my screen. Something is happening today. I activated the screen recording function I'd started before the call. Reed's earlier words played back, the market's booming right now. Without this investment. You recorded this? Reed's charm evaporated instantly. That's an invasion of privacy. Actually, I said, in this state, it's perfectly legal to record conversations you're participating in. But identity theft and attempted fraud? Those are definitely illegal. Mother leaned toward the camera, hands raised placatingly. Darling, let's all calm down. I've already forwarded everything to my legal team and the financial crimes unit, I continued, another bluff, but I'd do it the moment we disconnected. So here's what's going to happen, you're all going to stop contacting me. Now. This is family business, Reed snapped. And my money isn't family property, I replied. Check the trust conditions. Grandfather specified complete independence of beneficiaries. Funny how you conveniently forgot that detail. I moved my cursor to end the call, hands steady despite my racing heart. One more thing, Reed. Start looking for legitimate employment. Your consulting facade isn't fooling anyone anymore. Their protests cut off as I disconnected, but I wasn't finished. My phone was already in hand, texting Octavia, evidence secured. Worse than we thought. Meet me at the lawyer's office in an hour. The lawyer's sleek conference room made everything look cold and businesslike. I sat at the polished table, Octavia beside me while my attorney reviewed the documentation for the third time. This is definitely concerning, she said, frowning. How long has your family been attempting to access your accounts? Just the past few days, I lied. Octavia's glance was knowing, she was aware the problem had started months ago, escalating after I confronted Reed. My phone buzzed again, the 15th message from Reed since our video call. I ignored it, just like all the others. The lawyer cleared her throat. Ms. Sawyer. Just Elaine, I corrected automatically. No need for formalities. Elaine, then. These attempted trust fund manipulations are alarming. I'm recommending immediate legal action to secure your assets. Legal action. The family meeting was in 2 days. I don't want to, I started, but Octavia cut me off. She'll do it, Octavia said firmly. Today. My phone lit up with a new message, this time from Father, consider what you're doing to this family. Reed is distraught. Let's discuss this rationally. The lawyer left to prepare initial documents, and Octavia finally spoke. Why didn't you tell me things had escalated this far? Because acknowledging it makes it real. I rubbed my temples, feeling the tension headache building. Did you know Reed was working with Vincent Weston even before their investment opportunity pitch? They've been planning this financial grab for months. That's exactly why you need to step back, she said. Let the legal team handle it. Focus on protecting your company. A knock at the door made us both look up. Reed stood there, still in his designer suit, wearing a perfectly calibrated concerned expression, the practiced worried brother. Thank goodness, he said, stepping into the room uninvited. The receptionist told me you were here. Get out, Octavia's voice was arctic. I have a right to be here. We're family. The family you were willing to manipulate while attempting to drain her accounts? Octavia stood, all business despite her small stature. The same family whose trust you've repeatedly abused with your schemes? Reed's facade wavered slightly. Elaine, whatever you think I did. I found the gambling debts, I said quietly. The words fell like ice into the silent room. Grandfather suspected something was wrong before he died. That's why the trust has those protection clauses. That landed effectively. Reed's expression went completely blank, his tailwind caught off guard. You're bluffing. I opened my tablet, pulled up the financial report I'd received that morning from my investigator. Want to see the casino records? The loan sharks, did you really think grandfather wouldn't protect his legacy from someone like you? Everything I did was for my future, Reed said, but his eyes darted nervously. For our family's reputation. Ms. Sawyer. My lawyer reappeared with documents. I need your signature on these restraining orders. I'll get some water, Octavia said, giving Reed a look that could cut diamond. Once we were alone, Reed moved closer, his voice lowered. Think about what you're doing. One call to mother and your precious independence will crumble. I looked at him, really studied him, and wondered how I'd ever mistaken his charm for substance. One call from me and the fraud department will have your complete financial history. Which call causes more damage? The lawyer waited professionally, pretending not to listen. Reed straightened his designer watch, another nervous tell. This isn't over. You're right, I said, accepting the documents from my lawyer. This is just the beginning. As Reed stormed out, my phone buzzed with a message from Octavia, found something major in the financial traces. Reed isn't working alone. Someone else has been directing this whole operation. I exhaled slowly, feeling the tension in my shoulders. One battle at a time. First, I needed to secure my assets. Then I could focus on uncovering who had really orchestrated this elaborate scheme. Ready to proceed? My lawyer asked as Octavia returned. Yes, I said, thinking of the family that had tried to exploit me, filled with demands disguised as love. I'm ready to establish some permanent boundaries. 2 days after obtaining the restraining orders, Father showed up unannounced at my office. I watched through the security monitor as he charmed his way past the receptionist, executive briefcase in hand, wearing the same calculated smile he'd used when introducing Reed to potential investors. You don't have to meet with him, Octavia said, standing beside my desk. Actually, I do, I straightened my blazer deliberately. But not without backup. 15 minutes later, Father sat across from me in my sleek conference room, with Octavia beside me and my attorney positioned strategically by the door. This situation has escalated unnecessarily, Father began, opening his briefcase. I have a compromise that could satisfy everyone. Like the scheme to drain my trust fund behind my back? I kept my voice level, recalling my lawyer's advice. Father removed a document. Vincent Weston is offering Reed a legitimate business opportunity. Your investment would remain safe with guaranteed returns, while Reed finally establishes himself and your family reconciles. Gambling debts? The question struck precisely. Father's confident smile faltered. Did you really think grandfather's financial protections wouldn't reveal those too? Now, listen here, Father started to stand, but my attorney's voice sliced through the tension. Remain seated, Mr. Sawyer. This isn't a social call. He sat, straightening his expensive tie. Reed needs your help, Elaine. This family crisis, the stress, you're not thinking rationally. Actually, Octavia interjected, sliding a folder across the table, she's thinking perfectly clearly. These are financial protection orders against you, Reed, and Bronwyn. Any further attempts to access Elaine's accounts will trigger immediate criminal charges. Father's composed facade disintegrated. You entitled little. A sharp knock interrupted him. My assistant entered, looking concerned. I apologize, but Mrs. Sawyer is here. She's extremely agitated. Before anyone could respond, Mother burst in, her perfect appearance noticeably disheveled. How could you do this to Reed? His credit cards have been cancelled. The bank cancelled them because he committed attempted fraud, my attorney stated matter-of-factly. That's standard procedure when you try to use someone else's assets as collateral without authorization. We were trying to help him. Mother's voice escalated dramatically. His business is failing. Vincent was offering a solution. By secretly collaborating to manipulate my trust fund? I stood, the anger I'd controlled finally surfacing. By using grandfather's death anniversary as your deadline? Your grandfather was an impossible man, Father snapped, finally revealing his true nature. He could have distributed everything years ago, made all our lives comfortable, but he insisted on these ridiculous conditions. Leave now, my attorney's voice was razor sharp. All of you. Immediately. This isn't finished, Father threatened, gathering his documents. You have no comprehension of what you're fighting. Actually, I said, tapping my tablet screen, I do. I played back the recording I'd just captured. Father's face drained of color. That's inadmissible. Try me. I stepped forward, allowing him to see the cold fury I'd been containing. You exploited grandfather's legacy, my success, my trust, everything. Now I'll use every resource at my disposal to ensure you, Reed, and everyone involved face consequences. After they departed, Octavia touched my shoulder. You okay? Your tension headaches. I'm fine. I wasn't, but I needed clarity. What did you discover about Vincent Weston? Octavia hesitated. Your instincts were correct. Reed was just a pawn. The person orchestrating everything, it's your mother's longtime lover. The man who's been part of your family's inner circle for decades. I felt physically ill. Vincent Weston. But he was grandfather's financial advisor. I remembered Vincent at our holiday gatherings, giving investment advice, attending my company launch. The betrayal cut deeply. He approached Reed 18 months ago, Octavia continued. Used him to gather information about your trust fund conditions. I leaned against the conference table, suddenly unsteady. So Reed wasn't just greedy. He was being manipulated. A willing participant, my attorney reminded me. I looked at the financial records spread across the table, the evidence Vincent had helped compile over the years. Then it's time to expose all of them. I turned to my lawyer. How quickly can we file criminal charges? Elaine, Octavia cautioned. Your doctor said. My doctor said to reduce stress. Nothing would alleviate my stress more than reclaiming what's rightfully mine. The financial institution's meeting room felt more sterile than I remembered. Perhaps it was the excessive air conditioning, or perhaps it was the way Reed sat opposite me, accompanied by Vincent Weston and several attorneys I didn't recognize. My grandfather's portrait on the wall seemed to observe us all with disapproval. To begin, Vincent said, his once familiar avuncular smile now appearing predatory, I want to express appreciation for Elaine joining us. Marcus would be pleased to see you engaging with family financial matters. Curious phrasing, I responded, considering you're attempting to dismantle everything he protected. Reed shifted nervously. The trust administrators, most of whom had managed my grandfather's affairs for decades, avoided making eye contact. This restructuring is a necessary evolution, Vincent continued confidently. Your financial projections are fabricated, I countered, distributing folders to each administrator. Just like the emergency situations created over the past 6 months. The room fell silent. Reed's face paled visibly. That's an extreme allegation, Vincent said, his smile growing strained. It's not an allegation. I signaled to Octavia, who opened her laptop. It's documented evidence. Grandfather anticipated someone might attempt to circumvent the trust conditions. That's why he installed hidden protection clauses. Reed jumped to his feet. This is absurd. Elaine's paranoia. Sit down, Reed, Vincent commanded sharply, revealing the first crack in his composed demeanor. These paranoid theories are substantiated in these files, I continued, including your clandestine meetings with Reed, the falsified loan applications, and the shell companies you've been using to channel funds. The boardroom door opened. My lawyer entered, accompanied by 2 federal agents. What is happening? Vincent demanded. This, I said, standing with steady determination, is what occurs when you underestimate a woman with insomnia, excellent digital forensics, and access to her grandfather's contingency plans. What followed seemed to unfold in slow motion. Vincent lunged for Octavia's laptop. Reed shouted accusations about betrayal. The federal agents stepped forward. Then Vincent knocked over a water pitcher, sending liquid cascading across the table. Elaine? Octavia's voice sounded distant. I gripped the edge of the table, rage building behind my temples. Everything became chaotic. I vaguely registered being guided to a chair, angry voices clashing, my lawyer calling security. You caused this. I heard Reed yell. If you had just helped family. My fault. My voice trembled with fury, but remained forceful. You betrayed everything, our family history, grandfather's trust, your own integrity. I did it for my future. Reed's mask finally disintegrated completely. Vincent promised me financial independence, control of new investments. We could have had everything. Everything except self-respect, I retorted as my migraine intensified. Vincent's smooth voice attempted to cut through the disorder. This meeting is evidently concluded, given the hostile atmosphere. The meeting continues, my lawyer announced firmly. The authorities have sufficient evidence, and Elaine has granted me power of attorney for precisely this situation. I wanted to smile at their shocked expressions, but my migraine was worsening rapidly. Security personnel arrived, directing questions I barely had focus to answer. The evidence is secure, Octavia whispered, squeezing my shoulder. Let us handle the rest now. As I was escorted out, I caught a final glimpse of the conference room. Reed stood motionless, watching me leave, his schemes dissolving around him. Vincent was already being detained, his mentor facade replaced by cold calculation. My lawyer occupied the central chair, her posture resolute as iron, confronting those who had attempted to steal my inheritance. In the elevator, between waves of anger and vindication, I reflected on my grandfather, about principles and legacy, and what truly matters when everything else disintegrates. Your blood pressure is concerning, Octavia said. Try to relax. Relax. While my family imploded, my company faced potential collateral damage, and my entire financial security had nearly been compromised. I closed my eyes, feeling strangely isolated despite the victory. Grandfather, I whispered. I finally understand what you were protecting me from. 1 week after the trust fund confrontation, I sat in my grandfather's former study, surrounded by his legacy, when Reed appeared unannounced. He looked completely defeated, disheveled, expensive clothes rumpled, his usual confidence utterly shattered. You shouldn't be here, I said, fingers instinctively tightening around my coffee mug. The restraining order was still in effect, making his presence technically illegal. Vincent Weston was arrested this morning, Reed's voice wavered. The FBI is freezing all connected accounts. They're calling it one of the most elaborate financial fraud schemes they've seen in years. I know, I maintained my composure. I provided my final testimony 2 hours ago. He moved closer, desperation emanating from him. Elaine, please, I need to explain everything. Can you explain why you conspired against me after I helped you repeatedly? Why you used our family connection as cover for attempted theft? I did it because I was desperate. The admission burst from him. Do you have any idea what it's like being Marcus Sawyer's grandson while watching his favorite succeed at everything? Nothing I accomplished ever measured up. I studied him, truly seeing him for the first time. So you decided to steal what you couldn't earn? I decided to prove I could be something more than just your struggling brother. Reed ran his hands through his unkempt hair. Vincent promised me control of new venture funds, real success, not just handouts from the Sawyer legacy. Now I have nothing. We might still salvage something. He knelt beside my chair, reaching toward me. I recoiled. The prosecutors mentioned reduced charges if I testify against Vincent. Stop. I opened my grandfather's antique desk and removed an envelope. I found this in grandfather's personal files. It's dated 1 week before he died. Reed froze as I unfolded the letter. Dear Elaine, I read aloud. If you're reading this, my concerns about Reed and his financial associates were justified. I regret not being there to help you navigate this situation, but I've always known you possess more strength than anyone realizes, particularly yourself. Elaine, he whispered. He anticipated this, I continued, my voice strengthening. He foresaw what you might attempt, which is why he structured the trust with those specific conditions. Your grandfather was a controlling old man who built something meaningful, I interrupted sharply. While you and Vincent were scheming to access it, he was ensuring I could protect it. Reed stood, his pretense completely abandoned. So that's all. Our entire relationship means nothing? It meant everything to me. I returned my grandfather's letter to the drawer. That's precisely why your betrayal was so effective. Your company will still need outside investment, he said, one final desperate attempt. You're rejecting potential growth out of stubbornness. I smiled genuinely for the first time. Actually, while you were occupied with your manipulations, I was negotiating with international investors. They're providing expansion capital without any ownership transfer. The board approved it yesterday. The color drained from his face. But Vincent insisted no one would invest without equity. Vincent lied. Just as you did. I stood confidently. The criminal complaints are with my attorneys. So is my statement to the Financial Crimes Unit. You're actually going through with this? His voice turned bitter. Destroying your own brother? Your only sibling? No, Reed. You destroyed yourself. I walked toward the door, then paused. Grandfather left you a message too. It's in the envelope. I watched as he opened it with unsteady hands and read the single line, I gave you every opportunity to choose integrity. You chose deception. Reed crumpled the paper, his meticulously constructed world disintegrating around him. Elaine, wait. Goodbye, Reed. I stepped into the hallway where Octavia and my lawyer waited. The federal agents are downstairs, Octavia said quietly. They need your final statement about the falsified loan applications. As we departed, I heard Reed calling after me, his voice echoing through the house where my grandfather had lived, where I had once believed in family loyalty, where I finally learned to establish boundaries. "Will you be all right?" Octavia asked gently. I thought about my company's future and the legacy my grandfather had entrusted to me. "I already am," I said. "And I'll only get stronger from here." 1 year later, I stood in my grandfather's office, now my headquarters, reviewing the latest market projections while watching my company's stock value rise steadily on the digital display. The international partnerships had surpassed all expectations, and my business was more robust than ever. A gentle knock interrupted my concentration. "The board conference begins in 15 minutes, Octavia announced, then smiled approvingly at my workspace. "The new investment strategy looks impressive." "It's still evolving," I replied, adjusting a graph on my tablet. "But we're finally seeing the innovation push paying dividends." The news notification on my screen caught my attention, a brief headline about Reed's sentencing, 18 months, reduced from 3 years for his testimony against Vincent Weston. My parents had relocated to Arizona, abandoning their social connections and leaving behind considerable financial obligations. "Have you read his email?" Octavia asked, noticing my momentary distraction. I glanced toward the unread message in my inbox. Reed's name in the sender field, once so familiar, now felt like that of a distant acquaintance. Some communications don't require acknowledgement. My lawyer appeared in the doorway, impeccably professional in her role as my chief legal counsel. "Ready. The expansion proposal needs your signature before presentation." As I gathered my materials, a photograph slipped from my grandfather's old planner, Marcus and me at my MBA graduation. On the back, in his distinctive handwriting, "Achievement isn't measured by wealth, Elaine. It's determined by what principles you refuse to compromise." "He would be immensely proud," my lawyer commented softly. "Not merely for preserving his legacy, but for how you've strengthened it." Without bitterness, I realized, the insight suddenly crystallizing. That's what he hoped I'd discover. Anyone can seek vengeance. Creating something meaningful, that's the genuine accomplishment. The conference room had been transformed, fresh perspectives blended with established experience, my company evolving while maintaining its foundational principles. As I took my position at the head of the table, I considered the cycles of betrayal and renewal, of conclusions and fresh starts. Before we proceed, I addressed the board. "I'm announcing a new initiative. We're launching the Marcus Sawyer Foundation for Financial Independence, comprehensive scholarships for first-generation entrepreneurs who demonstrate ethical leadership and innovative thinking." I saw recognition in the veteran board members' expressions, appreciation in the newer additions. This was how to construct a meaningful legacy, not through tearing down others, but by establishing opportunities for something greater. Following the meeting, I discovered another note from my grandfather tucked inside his old ledger. "The true challenge of success isn't reaching it. It's determining who you become after you've attained it." My phone displayed a message from Mother. "Reed asks about reconnecting. Perhaps consider family counseling." I archived it without replying. Some relationships remain severed, not from resentment, but because healthier boundaries benefit everyone. "Miss Sawyer." My executive assistant appeared. "The new development team is ready for orientation, and your financial advisor mentioned something about reviewing the charitable giving strategy." I smiled, recalling weekends reviewing business plans with grandfather, his patience as he explained complex concepts. "Schedule both, and add quarterly ethics workshops for our leadership team." Later, as I drove to my evening yoga class, I passed the building where Vincent had once maintained his office. New tenants had renovated it completely, transforming it into something different, just as I had reshaped my grandfather's business into an enterprise that honored his principles while advancing confidently. At a stoplight, I finally opened Reed's email. The message contained a single sentence: "I regret everything. I chose poorly." I deleted it permanently, watching the notification disappear from my screen. The light turned green, and I accelerated forward. "Time to focus on what matters," I said aloud to myself, thinking of the new mentorship program I was launching, of the innovations still to come, of lessons about integrity that are demonstrated through actions rather than words. The city lights glowed around me as I drove forward, leaving the past where it belonged, not erased, but transformed into something more resilient, wiser, and ultimately more significant than any resentment could ever be.